thank you for coming along today to this session, which seems to be the FDC3 room. So thank you for those coming back to follow on with this session. So my name's Ben Jefferys, work at Genesis. I've been at Genesis for a little over 3 years, and I run the sales engineering team at Genesis. Been around in financial markets technology for a long time, but really, happy to be here today and talk to you guys about FDC3 integrations, how we can be using developments in FDC3 with technologies like Genesis and others to help try and solve some of the challenges that a lot of us face quite often in the world of financial markets technology. Before we sort of kick off, I thought it was a conversation that I had yesterday with an existing client who's looking to use our platform to build some software on themselves. And yes, it's a genuine, true story, but I thought it was really relevant to the discussion today. So talking to these guys, they were in various locations out in the Far East. So they were in Hong Kong, Singapore, and China, talking about this POC they want to use on our platform to test out a particular or solve a particular use case that they have. So we're talking through it. It's always great when someone wants to do POCs with you as a software company. They're very keen, leaning into it, that type of thing. And then they told me about all their requirements, which I sort of gathered up, put it into this template that we use to work these things, and I took it back to the team. And late yesterday, I sat with the team, some who are with me here in the room today. We sort of ran through what they were talking about. And of course, integrations featured quite heavily on what they wanted to prove out with the software. The first thing they said was, well, we'd like to run this on-premise within our dev environments. And when you have those conversations with, maybe it's a builder around a renovation of your house, or a plumber, or someone who delivers a large piece of furniture to your house, and you ask them about something, oh, can you put that sofa up there on that first floor? The look is... And so when I was telling my colleagues about, they want to run it on-prem, the looks on the Teams call were a bit like people starting to sit back. I said, and they want to integrate it with a Kafka queue. And everyone's like, okay. Then there's a new vendor solution they have. It's a REST API. We want to connect to that. Everyone's like, okay. Then there's this legacy DB2 database they've got, and everyone's starting to get a little bit sort of twitchy in their seats, because we know the score, right? So look, cutting that long story short, I think it's pretty typical of the types of situations we find ourselves in within financial markets sort of software, dealing with integrations and the fun and game that it kind of brings with it. So today, it's in terms of agenda, I've kind of broken it into 3 areas. One, a little bit of elaborating on that story about software development in this space and some of the challenges that we have, all of us here face day to day. And that really kind of sets the scene for me to talk to you a little bit about sort of who Genesis are and how we help and what we bring to the table to help solve some of those challenges. And then that leads nicely into talking about FDC3 and what we've been doing, not only just for our clients, but also within our technology around enabling people to use that much more easily and integrated part of their solutions. So those are the 3 areas, and we can sort of jump through. So starting here, not within financial markets, but rolling it back to a much more macro level, building software, regardless of industry, definitely has its challenges. So a quick Google for some recent headlines, found these ones, but it's an all too common theme that I'm sure we all know very well. So the demand for software applications continues to grow. It's not like it's a steady thing and we're trying to sort of meet that demand. The actual demand keeps growing and growing, and we just cannot keep up with supply of developers to satisfy that demand. So global problem, but then drilling a bit more into financial markets and starting to think about integrations, like what makes us a bit different. As I started sort of reading some articles about, what really does make software different in this space, and integrations is a key thing that we see. That makes, I think, software in this particular market a little bit more complex than you'll find in other particular sectors. So the list that I'm showing there on the screen are pretty typical of the types of integrations that we will see in software in this space. Most applications, like the one I was telling you about with our client and the proof of concept, are pretty typical. So you've got multiple different types of data sources that you're trying to bring in. So market data, probably multiple. Trading systems and platforms, probably multiple of those. Risk management, compliance systems, these are all things that need to be part of the trading workflow. Analytical tools, what you're sort of seeing is that the old approach of one size or one system solves all problems, that day is certainly, that ship has sailed, that day has gone, and people are having to break their technology stack up to look for best of breed solutions and bring them in, hence the integrations. So all of those there, CRMs, we want some insights into what our clients are doing. Maybe when did they last trade? I want to know a little bit more about them so I can be perceived to be adding value to them, etc. So all of these types of integrations are fairly typical that we see in this space, adding more complexity to building software within financial markets. So why are integrations difficult? So I wanted to create what is, I think I've done well in creating a very busy and unattractive slide. This looks a bit confusing because I think that's kind of the underlying message is that integrations can be a bit confusing and can be difficult. So some of those reasons are inconsistent data models, we've got different underlying technologies and different standards, we've got the challenge of dealing with legacy systems, we're talking about needing to be sort of scalable and performant, InfoSec requirements as well. These are all common sort of factors in playing a role or being part of why integrations are always challenging, regardless of the type that we're actually trying to bring into a solution. And that's not even talking about the change management of those. It's one thing, it's hard to get things up and running. Secondly, it's difficult to keep them maintained and moving forward. So then, bringing it back to this balance that we need to strike within this market. A number of competing priorities that we see time and time again. I promise I'll only mention buy and build twice, and this is one, but that challenge between dealing with incumbent vendor solutions or looking at maybe how you update or replace some homegrown legacy technology. It's been a battle for a long time and probably will be for a long time going forward as well. Also trying to get that balance between a demand for innovation, but also the pressure to be compliant and to deal with the ever-changing regulatory scene that we see globally in financial markets. So that balance between how can I innovate when my resources are being spent on dealing with regulatory change and pressures. And then of course there's the need to remove complexity from your stack as well. But at the same time, if you're reducing complexity, trying to reduce vendors that I use, I've got to be also cognizant of vendor concentration risk. We know that there have been troubles in the past, and clients we have and people we talk to are actively have programs to identify ways of reducing that concentration risk. So I guess going through these sort of introductory slides, talking about software development at a macro level, bring it into financial markets, bit of a spin on integrations. We're dealing with a complex situation that we've all been involved in for some time. And as an industry, we're looking for new ways to solve that, and here to talk a little bit about how FDC3 helps some of that. So, moving on to the next section, I just wanted to introduce and give a little bit of background to who Genesis are and how we fit in. These are our corporate slides that I'm showing you for the next few. I'm not going to talk to them because this is not a sales pitch, but if I'm going to talk about Genesis, I have to use the slides. So forgive me for that. But really the message here is that what Genesis is all about is accelerating innovation in financial markets. We've got a broad range of clients, so hence the nice logos sheet that I'm showing you here, but we've got clients from buy sides, sell sides, market infrastructure providers, through startups through to tier one banks, all across different locations around the world, and we work with them in a few different ways, and I'll go through that in just a moment. But what we're all about is the Genesis platform, the Genesis application platform, and it's a framework, it's a toolkit that is designed for professional developers, and it's there to enable them to build what we call financial grade applications. So financial markets grade applications much more simply and faster than traditional methods. So what's a financial markets grade application? Of course, I'm using some of our marketing terms, but we're talking about applications that of course have lots of integrations, but we're dealing with real-time event handling, we're dealing with sort of perhaps in low latency scenarios, dealing with vast amounts of transient data, also rich reactive UIs, those types of things. What we aren't is a toolkit for automating processes and workflows, right? I mean, there's plenty of rapid tools that are in that space. We're in a different space here when, applications, as you can see on the screen, and I've got some examples to show you later, you can kind of see the types of applications that people are building on this platform. And of course, what underpins all of those is a lot of integrations that typically sit on the back end. So how we help, really quickly, there's three ways that we work with our clients. A big area, a huge area of direction for us is around getting people to build on the platform themselves. So Genesis had a recent release of its platform. We call it G8, not V8, because we like our marketing terms, but it's called Genesis G8, and that is really around enabling a broader set of developers to actually build these types of applications even easier than they have done in the past, and FDC3 is a part of that, and I'll come back to that in just a moment. So that's all about you build or self-build clients building on that platform. If you know Genesis historically, you will know us from building applications on behalf of clients. So that's where Genesis has teams of developers who are building like on an outsourced consultative style basis for its clients. And that's always been a big part of what we do, especially as we've been building out our platform, and will continue to be a big part of what we do going forward as well. But then, of course, we have our partner network, which is in its infancy, but that's helping us with the scale. So partners that we work with, so implementation partners who are building on the Genesis platform with their own developers for client solutions. So it's all part of enabling teams of developers to build these types of applications. What is the platform? So really quickly, and then we'll sort of move on to sort of FDC3. The Genesis application platform, really there's three core parts to it, or three key parts to it, keeping it nice and high level and simple. Starting at the bottom of that list is our what we call our application runtime. So any of the applications that you build using the toolkit will have a common set of core services that underpin it. So regardless of if it's an application that someone's built for a buy side or a sell side or FX or fixed income, regardless of what it is, if you pop open the hood and have a look inside, there's a core set of common services in every application. So really saving developers from building these applications from scratch. Secondly, around the Genesis, what we call the marketplace. As I mentioned before, we've done a lot of building applications for people in the past where they've outsourced those projects to Genesis. Integrations have featured heavily, no surprises. So what we're able to do is to work through those applications and look for where we've got integrations to various services and systems, turn those into what we call reusable components and make them available in our marketplace. So again, empowering developers or enabling them to use these types of components in their projects and saving them from building these types of things from scratch. And then the last part is really around the development suite. This is where we've got some tooling that we've released just recently, which is helping developers via a web app to configure their sort of structure of an application as a foundation, if you will, and there's optionality in there to include FDC3 support, so that it'll actually go and build some of that FDC3 code for you automatically in your application. So just quickly wrapping up on that, what do people build with it? There's a range, small through to large. We've got clients who have built complete core systems on Genesis so it can scale very well. High-performant use cases, Neptune Networks, if you know them, is a great example of that. Neptune, it's a fixed income secondary market access distribution platform. On a busy day, handles over 1 billion fixed messages in a day, so it's a good story around a high-performance use case. We've got plenty of clients who are building what we call those real-time applications, so more standard-size applications. So it could be where people are building dashboards, bringing data in from numerous sources, normalizing it, pushing it up into a consolidated type dashboard. It could be pre-trade risk tools or margin tools. There's a whole wide range of these applications that people are building that are all real-time. And equally at the other end of that spectrum, more workflow tools. So a number of our clients use us to replace what we call EUCs or UDAs, depending on what terminology you use, but homegrown technology that typically lurks on spreadsheets and macros and access databases. And we've got clients such as like BNY, Baker York Mellon, who actually use that platform as part of that program to eradicate those, or remediate is probably the right word, from their organisation. So the platform can be used across a wide range of use cases. And this is the second time that I was going to mention buy and build, but hopefully you can kind of see where we fit. So the financial markets have been always faced with that challenge of, do I buy an incumbent vendor solution? Do I try and build it myself? But what we're trying to do is offer people a different way of building this software. So you can have the acceleration that you might see from using a vendor solution, but you've also got the ability to customize these applications as well. And interoperability is, of course, a very big part of that. So hopefully you've got an idea of where Genesis sort of fits into this space. So let's move on and talk a little bit about FDC3, and let's bring all of this together. We've had a look at sort of the challenges of dealing with financial markets, software development, and how integrations are a complex part of that. I've hopefully given you an idea of who Genesis are and where we might fit into the landscape. But now let's bring it together and talk a little bit about FDC3. So FDC3, I think the standard was first published at the back end of 2017. So I sort of thought to myself, what else was going on then? And in my time, this is actually not that long ago, but these were the key things that we were all sort of living and breathing at that time. We were dealing with MiFID II that was going, it was in force from early 2018. So there's lots of regulatory change that the industry was dealing with. We were talking about big data. There's so much data floating around, not only from MiFID II and the amount of data that you needed to create and then consume, best execution for your clients. We had fragmentation of liquidity from MiFID I with all the different exchanges and MTFs that you could trade on. So suddenly this industry was dealing with vast amounts of data and also being able to process it in real time. So then other things, technologies, machine learning, AI, these are things were just very embryonic at that particular point in time. Cloud computing, everyone was talking about the cloud and it was a bit like, well, what do you do with it? Not really sure. Is it even compliant? Do the regulators feel safe with it? So cybersecurity, you get the picture here. So lots going on, and we've probably gone from a transitioning as an industry from having maybe 1 to 2 to 3 sort of incumbent vendor solutions within your trading stack to actually probably having a more fragmented approach, because you need something for analytics, you've got a CRM that's involved, you've got all of these other tools and services that you're trying to bring together. So again, creating that need for integration. So then along comes FDC3, and I'm sure I don't need to preach to you guys as to what it's all about and why it's important. But of course, it was here to help solve that integration challenge. To this point, we were always thinking about solving integrations at the back end. It's a server thing. We bring the feeds in, those complex various APIs or feeds. We normalize them, we bring them in, we do something with them, and we serve them up in applications. But even that wasn't enough. We needed to find another way to actually be able to move and to change and to customize workflows and do that at a desktop level. Hence FDC3 arrived on the scene back in late 2017. So then this slide, I took this from the FINOS website. So this is a current reflection of participants that are using FDC3 within the community. And it's a great list of organisations of all different types. And I'll apologise for the various categories that I've tried to sort of outline here, because I think it's important to show, it comes back to where Genesis fits into this and in terms of our development platform and people building on it. So if you look at those logos, you've got a lot of what I call owner builders, right? So typically the banks, the buy sides there who are building solutions from the ground up themselves, using the FDC3 standard, maybe using some of the interoperability desktops as well as part of that solution. But they're, as I call them, the owner builders. They're building these types of solutions themselves. We've then got tools and components. So it might be the adaptable guys. It could be the Chart IQ, or more recently the iPush-Pull crowd with their workflow and platform. So we've got a number of these sort of tools, which makes sense, right? I'm going to be able to get better usability if my application or my platform talks FDC3. It can be part of that bigger ecosystem. We've got the consultancies who, of course, are building these types of custom solutions for their clients. Some of those being FDC3 capable as well. So, of course, that makes sense. And then you've got data providers and platforms. Again, if I have a market data platform or market data terminal, making it talk FDC3 makes a lot of logical sense. And then lastly, as I mentioned before, the interoperability platform. So, of course, we've got Interop and we've got OpenFin now here. as real drivers for organisations that were looking for an integrated desktop to be able to bring all of these applications in, probably combined with a bit of self-build, so back in that kind of owner-builder category as well. Now, I think that the genesis of the past fits into that in terms of the building custom solutions for our clients. But then in terms of where we're going, this is really where the gap we saw was, and where we actually focused a lot of our attention with our recent platform release called Genesis G8. So where we were to date, and as I said, Genesis is doing a lot of building on behalf of clients. A number of those were built to support FDC3. That integrations, or using FDC3, integrating with either an OpenFin desktop or an interop or the old Glue 42 stack, was done at that solution level. So, you can see where the arrow is. There's no connectivity. Like the Genesis platform itself, the underlying platform that I'm building on, it's not aware of FDC3. The application that we're building on top, that was used. So it was all done custom, all done bespoke for that particular solution. And that worked well for a while, because the business that Genesis was doing mostly at that point in time was around Genesis building for behalf of clients. But in terms of the direction that we're looking to go and getting people building on that platform, as part of what we've recently brought to market, is actually bringing that FDC3 support back down into the platform itself. And so some of the tooling that we've been able to release, as I mentioned, we've released a web app that allows a user of the Genesis platform or a developer to go and sort of really spec out the underlying structure of their application. So it could be the data structures, the queries, etc. And I've got a screenshot to show you in a minute. It also allows you to enable which components of that web app you want to actually, or of your UI, that you want to talk FDC3, and it'll go and build the code for you. So coming back to my long-winded story about who Genesis are and where we're going, is around trying to enable developers to build these applications much quicker. And so as much as we've got effort around our marketplace and having integration adapters at a server side, we're also enabling people to perform these integrations at a desktop level as well via FDC3. So having a look at, in terms of the next few slides, I've just got some screenshots to give you an idea. I thought, do I do a live demo? But that generally doesn't end well in these types of scenarios. So we've got screenshots, but more than happy to, if you want to speak to us afterwards, to actually give you live demos, we can definitely do that, or do it at a time after. So what I'm showing you here is what's called the Genesis Create tool. So this is the web app that we've recently deployed as part of our G8 release. Again, there's this constant theme we have of accelerating, right? And so this is one of many examples of how we're accelerating that build process. So some developers, who maybe are very experienced with Genesis, don't want to use this. Some do. Maybe it's a tool that people are using when they want to adopt Genesis, but it's a further acceleration to allow you to come in and quickly configure the elements of your application. Like you can see there, your entities being your data structure or your data model, any particular views, queries, through real-time streams, speccing out any of your FDC3 integrations, using any of the Genesis reusable components from the marketplace. So it's a little one-stop shop to get you up and running with an application nice and quickly. So that gives you an idea of that kind of direction that we're traveling. In case it wasn't clear before, in terms of me saying that we are a platform for experienced developers, I'm sure my colleagues are thinking, why is he showing that screen? But I grabbed it last minute this morning just to show you, just to reinforce that this is not some point-and-click visual tool for creating applications. It's a tool set for experienced developers. So we're showing IntelliJ being the IDE here. I've got a snippet of some code that's facilitating some FDC3 intents, etc. But this should be very clear as to who the type of person we're aiming this toolkit at, which allows them to be quite creative and flexible with the applications and solutions that they are building. So if you have a look, here's some examples, just some screenshots to round out the chat this afternoon. These are applications that we've built for clients. I can't show you anything that clients build because that's, of course, their IP. But to give you an idea of the types of things that people are building on Genesis, this is Octura, so it's a CLO and loan trading platform, initially backed by a consortium of Citi and Bank of America. That it's now a regulated entity on its own. So it's all about not only the trading platform that you're seeing on the screen here, but of course it's the matching engine that sits behind it. So that's, give you an example of a core system, lots of real-time interactions and workflows going on, and plenty of integrations as well. We've got Neptune networks, which I mentioned before. So this is the UI that you can have a look at here for Neptune. So all that secondary market access data streaming through. And a lot of people take actually the feed that sits behind this. So some people will use the desktop or the web app that you can see here. Plenty of others will actually take that feed and pump it into even an FDC3 desktop as well. So we have some clients that do that. And then the last one, second to last one is another example of a real-time application, so a smaller application. This is something that was built for quantitative brokers. Again, loads of integrations sitting here on the back end. This one doesn't use FDC3, but to give you an idea of the type of apps that people are building. So when I talked about financial markets grade apps, these aren't just workflow things, right? These are rich reactive UIs. And then the last one to show you is actually, this is an application we built for a client called RTX. You probably haven't heard of them. They're a startup in the US, but this sits in an OpenFin desktop. So giving you an idea of, Genesis applications running within FDC3 compliant wrappers and containers as well. So in summary, as I set out, those are the three areas that I wanted to take you through. Was one, just share that pain that we have around dealing with the complexities of building software in this market, particularly around the pain and challenges that we have of dealing with integrations. How we would have always solved them from a back-end perspective, but then looking at ways of being able to be more clever and creative around solving that particular desktop level. Hopefully introduced you to who Genesis are and where we play, and that story around empowering developers to build on this, and then lastly bringing that into an FDC3 story, which is around being able to give developers easy access to making applications not only work well with integrations on the back end, but also integrations at a desktop level for workflow using FDC3 and working with our partners such as OpenFin and Interop. So thank you very much for your time. No one fell asleep, so that's always a good thing, but I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, please enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Thank you.